Okay, folks, I'm going to try to do a little bit of painting here on Wednesday evening and get everything all set up here for. Put this here. Okay, perfect. And just pick up where we left off last time in our, what would it have been? Sunday morning, our Sunday painting. And we need to get too many things over here encroaching on my stuff. So just bear with me. We'll get some other people to show up here, give them some time, and we'll kind of go from there. So, all right, hump day, middle of the week. I guess technically it's past the middle of the week, right? Midday today would be the middle of the week. Good. Let's get this week over with. Who's making noises back there? Over in the laundry room, as I like to call it, we have a lot of, I'd say probably 75% of our clothes. I'm just going to take a stab at it. Probably have to be hung up. I don't put them in the dryer, so I just hang them up in here. Probably a hanger. It's trying to be mouthy. Move it in the fans. I do have the fan going, so of course I have the fan going. Why wouldn't I? All right, let's get rid of this. And almost there, almost there. And I mean, literally, when I stop filming, I stop filming. That's it. Everything stays where it is. You know, there's the extra water that we had when we filled this thing on here. So if this doesn't need to be saturated a little bit more, let's flip this around over to the side you guys are used to seeing here. And that's supposed to happen. And flip this here. Okay. Now let's see how this is doing. Of course, it's been closed for a few days now. Let's take my glasses off so I can see, as I like to say. I could use a little bit more water. Let's go ahead and just, we can just peel this back. I was really leery when I got one of these of putting too much water, but you got to get really out of control to put too much water in one of these. And it behaves a lot better when you do, when it's plenty saturated. So you can still take some more. Okay. Use that before we spill it somewhere. Let's just water. All right, let's see what we got here. I'm going to open the wrong one, aren't I? This one's all right. It's still got some liquid in here. But I'm going to go ahead and... Now, see, if this was just water, and this was not the airbrush thinner, the paint that's in here would actually stick to the side here. But I don't know what the hell this airbrush thinner is made out of. But it is real easy to get completely clean again. It's almost like contact lens solution. I know it's not some mixture of this or that and the other. It doesn't even say what it is. Dilutes color without loss of adhesion, resistance, and consistency. It's recommended to add 1 to 2 drops of thinner to 10 drops of paint. Oh, I just use it as I see fit. This stuff's amazing. I've used it a lot and only used, I don't know, 15% maybe. So I'll be buying this stuff again. It is rather expensive. It's like $20 for one of those, but hey, if something lasts a long time, it doesn't matter, you know. Like this paint palette, I think I paid $50 for it. And at the time, I was like, man, that's really expensive. And it kind of is, but I use it every time I paint. So then it's not that expensive, you know, if it's something you use all the time. So things are only expensive if you buy them and then don't use them. It's just, that's wasteful. Okay, where does that leave us? It leaves us on one, we got one Saloy left to do. We got this set of the 5 Amigos here. Are all done, and we may doctor them up a little bit after we're done, but they're supposed to be drab looking. As someone pointed out, here's my Union one and my Confederate one. I don't think that looks like a helmet to me. We could repaint it as a helmet. Anyhow, we've got this guy to do. Let's knock him out tonight. How about that? Of course, the other spearmen that I completed last week or a week before, I haven't clear coated them yet either. So we'll end up clear coating them and all these skirmishers at the same time. So, okay. All right. So this guy has a jacket that is padded. Okay, so we're going to grab a padded jacket type color. So let's just, for variety, let's do something that's a little bit darker. And we'll be able to lighten this up a little bit. And welcome, both of you. Thanks for coming by, whoever you might be. I wanted to, so yesterday I almost did this. I was just so damn tired. I was just too tired yesterday. I ended up going to sleep at 9 p.m. Ended up going to sleep. And then I couldn't sleep a full night. So I woke up like every hour, I think starting at like 2:30 in the morning. I almost got up and said, you know what, I could probably do a painting session at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's not like I wouldn't have been well rested. And get some of the UK people, UK people to chime in, but it didn't happen. It didn't happen, so that's all right. I'm well rested, so there's no reason I should be falling asleep early tonight. So, all right, let's put some of this stuff down. I mean, I'm not in a huge rush to get these guys done. I do need to get on it because we need to finish the other guys for the convention, the Amorites, which I haven't even started yet. So, as I mentioned on Sunday, if it gets to be really close, once we roll into August, I need to start thinking I may have to shift to them, because I don't have to get these guys done by the end of September, but I do have to get the other army done by the end of September. So, hopefully, we won't have to do that. All right. Let's get some of this. Certainly there's some black that's alive still. Yeah. One step closer to having a decent home internet today. I think they just put us on a list. So hopefully by the end of next week, we could be running live shows in 1080. I'm not going to try to get too excited because it might be more involved than that. But see, once they know that once they're streaming live on YouTube with a mobile connection, they don't care how good your mobile connection is. It is just automatically set as, oh, this is a mobile connection, and you're automatically dumbed down to 720. So this feed you're getting is not as good as it's being filmed, but that's as good as YouTube has deemed us being able to be worthy of. So when I would have to stream through my home internet, which is pathetic right now. It is 20 years old, basically. So hopefully we will get to, my phone signal's great. I mean, my phone signal, it's always 5 to the max. Is it 5 to the max? Yep, 5G to the max. It used to be 4G to the max here at home. And then, when I got a 5G phone, it was ended up being 5G to the max. Just lucky the Irish that, I have a good phone connection here. But a horrible internet one. Skylab 707, Mr. Utah. What's being painted tonight? The last Saloy of the Papal Army. Hopefully we can get this guy done, and we can move on. The last Saloy, or as some people like to call him, Siloy. I don't even know. I think somebody told me the other day the correct way to call him is Sealy. Well, we'll just have to call him Saloy. Nobody knows what I'm talking about. Skirmishers. The last figure of skirmishers. This army has 3 stands of them. The other guys are waiting over here in the wings to meet their comrades. Got, I think, 4 of them done over last weekend. I think that's right. I was productive. Well, productive for me. It takes me forever to get anything done, so you got to keep that in mind. But doing this helps me stay on task, at least, on a hobby task, and I'm not out doing something else, so I'm not out playing video games or whatever else I may be doing instead. I used to play a lot more video games than I do now. I'd rather paint now. I actually had an opportunity to play games with Mitch tonight, and I passed him up. I'm like, nope, I got to get painting done. One game a week's enough. That's going to involve filming. That creates more work for me instead of getting this done. So the other night we did a blind general series. Only got through 4. We had 4 matchups set up. Only got through 2 of them. So we've got the other ones set for next time Scott can be involved in it or whatever. Because it was kind of sad. It was his idea and he hadn't gotten a chance to play yet. So he does other things on the side, and it kind of coincided at the same time that we had a game night. So he wasn't able to make it to any of them. So, but he did on Monday. So check that out if you haven't already. If you're into that sort of thing. Yeah, so what we're going to do is the other 2 battles, we'll just let him pick who he wants to be. And I'm not going to spoil the fun who it is. So one of the matchups we've never done. And it's a little unusual. But yeah, I got to get this stuff done. I can't do 2 videos a week. I got to get painting done because there's so many armies I want to do. There's so many. I got these papal guys to do. I got the Amorites afterwards. I got Dracula's army to do. I've got Goths to do, Huns, Byzantines, all kinds of stuff, And this is stuff that I got to do that I don't have to buy any figures for. I mean, they're just sitting there waiting on me. Pre-feudal Scots. What else? Feudal English. Convert my samurai to 3.0. I'll pay a few stands for those guys. Make that happen. What else? A few more stands for my medieval Germans, and so I can make a B list from them. What else? I got Anglo-Normans I've set apart. I've got Mamelukes. I got Mamelukes ready to go. Well, I, for one, like the Book One Army, so thanks for that group of games. The other battles we didn't play were not Book One, so that we didn't get to. So we will definitely have some more Book One battles once I finish a Book One army. I don't dislike the composition of the armies. I just dislike how much I have to literally invent out of nowhere. So I feel a little empowered by doing it since I've been having it, since I had to do that with several of my armies. And there's some of my favorite painted armies, or ones where I had to just invent stuff. Meaning my Irish and my Courage, they're plain looking guys that I made them, try to find a way to make them look more interesting. And at least in my eyes, I succeeded because I enjoy playing them a lot by how they look. So, and my who else also? I guess my Turk. I really enjoyed playing the Turks, even though those poor bastards don't have a chance of winning a game, but they do have a chance of winning a game, like 1 in 4. But I do enjoy playing them. All right, and let's get some. I know the white's already dried up. I know it. What else do I have waiting in the wings? I don't know. We could give a shot some games. Once the girls get out of town, we'll do some solo stuff doing that. I don't want to. I've got a few match pairs I could do that haven't seen a whole lot of action. So the only problem with doing that blind general alone, I can see is that you're setting up both sides and then moving them. Obviously the pips, you try to make the best decision you can with what you have, but it's kind of hard to fake yourself out. So I don't know if that'll come to fruition or not. Because the reality is I'm getting a lot of stuff done painting, so. And I don't need to play that bad because I play frequently enough. I know some of you guys are like dying to play solo stuff because you can't find opponents. I don't know. I would have thought that would have been over, but I guess there's parts of the world, California, etc., that are closing back down. I don't know. I forget that's going on. Well, there's a couple of things in retrospect I think that I timed right. One of them is getting my laptop. I got my laptop before the chips dried up because I'm certainly not going to order something that cost over $2,000 and not be able to lay hands on it. So I got to see it in a store. So I timed that. I ended up getting it right before everything shut down last year. I hadn't had a home computer to call my own in 8 years. So and then and then we did the cars. We had to redo the leases on the cars 2 months early, which is a good thing we did because I don't think the chip situation's been sorted out, and the prices on cars is just out of control. So, yeah, we might give that a shot. We have to do that when the girls are gone, so we don't have any interruptions. Not that they're very interruptive, but Yeah, speaking of not having interruptions, it seems like every time I play a game over at Mitch's, the Hare Krishnas knock on his door. That's my code for not exactly Hare Krishnas, but other people. So yeah, I think they played some DBN today, but some of us have to work on Wednesdays like normal people with a normal schedule. So that's all right. I'll laugh at him and make fun of him because he's got to work on Saturday and Sunday when I'm off. Okay, so I'm about done his little covering here. We've got some kind of a looks like a long tunic that we're going to tie into whatever color we use for his arms. Now, before we pick doing white, we're not going to do white because this figure right here is also an archer and he's mostly white as well. So we need to have a little bit of variety. Maybe that light blue. Or maybe that color I never did use. I didn't use it, did I? I never used this. Did I use the elf gray for something? Yeah, I guess that isn't white. It's elf gray. All right, let's do like a light. Let's get one of these light blues here. Let's find a vacant corner here where we can set up camp with this stuff here. Yeah, I got a lot of goths I picked up the other day. So I probably didn't need to pick them up, but I picked them up just the same. Oh well. Ooh. I got a bunch of goths, and whenever I work on them, I'll be getting more as I want variety. So I think out of them we could do Vandals, we could do Visigoths. All those guys. All those fun people you don't want them to come visit you. Alright, let's paint this in this color, and then we're going to bring it up. So this is another Essex figure. I'm not a fan of Essex army packs because I want to pick who's in my army. But I don't mind their figures. Especially if I get to put them in whatever order that I want. My biggest problem with their figures is their poses. Some of their poses are really unnatural. These guys are not, this isn't the case with these guys, but there are figures that they have poses that are extremely awkward. That is your current slate of DBA armies, Fall of Rome period. Yeah, it's a popular period. Why do you like that period, may I ask? During that period, the thing is like the Romans aren't very Roman. It's all like, okay, they're all barbarian armies that have been, interlopers or what have you. They're the ones doing all the fighting for them, anyways. So it's like, which barbarian do you like? Well, I like the barbarians in Roman service. I mean, I don't dislike the period. I think it's interesting. Um, I really like my Ostrogoths. I enjoyed playing them. I played them pretty successfully. I got a book on my Audible that I read on that period, and honestly, I don't remember much about that book. It wasn't bad. It was one that was recommended to me, and I want to say the author's name is Heather, Peter Heather. What is that? Why does that ring a bell? The local store, Gajo Games, had pre-painted 3.0 armies in that area, plus a couple of others. Huh. Well, that's convenient. Let me look at my Audible recommendation. I'll tell you what the name of the book is. Can't check it. It's on my phone easy. But, don't ask me to sign in. I don't know what it is. All right, how about Peter Heather? Yep. I believe I've read both of them. Which one of them is the Fall of the Roman Empire? and I believe I've read the Empires and Barbarians as well. I could be wrong. I may have just not read that one yet, but it was all right. It was easy to follow. You know, and I bet I've done the Great Courses series on Rome and the Barbarians by Harl. I'm sure I did because I like his stuff. So I yeah, it's an interesting period. It's an interesting period though that I mention geography all the time. That I really like geography, and I think it's extremely important to have a really good grasp of geography when you're reading history because at least from my personal understanding, I like to see where this guy is and where he moved and this kind of thing and the other. So okay. The only thing I don't like about that period is if you go and build a bunch of barbarian armies, for the most part, they're not going to do really well in open settings. Now, we don't play a lot of open tournaments. They do in lots of other places. Like we games that we run at the show, we'll run one event. It's usually at the end of the show that's an open. You can run whatever you want, but generally everything is themed. Either by period or troop composition or something like that. Enemies of China or enemies of the Rome or those type of things. So mixing it up. But in an open setting, you take an army like anything like the early Visigoths or whatever, which are mostly warband, mostly solid warband. They're just not going to fare well in an open setting. Um, that kind of stuff. But that doesn't mean they're not fun to play, you know. But that is one of the things I've kicked over to the guys. We need to do another Battle of the Bands thing, and then we all wear a band T-shirt. You just picked up Stilicho, the Vandal who saved Rome by Ian Hughes. Yeah, I know. I've gone back and forth with Ian a couple times. He is a bit of a gamer. I think he said he was going to write a book. I don't know if he'd written it yet or at the time, but I can't read a physical book. I'll never get through it. I have too many different things to do. I need something that's read to me while I'm driving or painting or something like that. Although I haven't listened to an audiobook and painted in a long, long time, maybe a couple of years. Um, Ever since I've been able to do this, I pretty much just film when I paint or interact when I paint, do my monologue when I paint, as opposed to listen to somebody else's. But yeah, if it was on Audible, I'd pick it up. Stilicho, yeah. That area is that time period is a little confusing because um, if you play DBA, some of the armies overlap. So you'll have I don't necessarily mean I don't know if it's in the Stilicho time period, but there's somewhere later Imperial Roman and Patriarch Patrician will overlap, and same thing with the Middle Imperial and the Late Imperial. Sometimes there'll be overlaps. I don't remember exactly where it happens right now, but when they did the, I want to see the Tetrarchy. There was some of the empires that were running an earlier style army than the other ones would be more appropriate, but that's just details. But I guess that kind of makes it kind of interesting too. But I don't think that they changed a whole lot between the middle and the late imperial. I think the late imperial and the patrician changed more than the middle imperial and the late imperial for the east and the west. Time period the patrician. It's like everybody's a barbarian that's in service of Rome. They're all just, the Romans are, I don't know, eating grapes or doing something else. the Trying to plan the other ones. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. The only thing I don't like about it is, and this is funny, is you've got that wonderful thing on the shields, right? The I can't even remember what it was called anymore. The Nova Dictorium or whatever. That Roman piece of thing that shows what units had what shields on them, but it's incomplete. And a lot of it is doing kind of some archaeology of finding out what unit would be in which army and what. I mean, I did some of that. I enjoyed it, but it does take time. So it's not like you can just like. Well, I mean, I guess you could, but you had try to find the most appropriate unit to paint, say your auxilia or something like that. I went to the point where I was building a late Imperial Roman, that's book 278B, back when we were doing 2.2. We were going to do a Fall of Rome tournament at one of our things. Probably was 2010, 11, 12, something like that. And I have an Old Glory army for 278B, and I have one for A as well. And I think I've painted maybe 10 or 12 figures for it. I started with a solid auxilia for the East, and I broke down and realized how big those units were of auxilia. I think they're like 500 strong. So what I did is I took this will show you how anal retentive I was, and I really overthought this. But in the original game, it's about 250 men per figure. So a solid auxilia stand is 4 figures, so that's 1,000 guys. The units of auxilia were 500 men strong. So of the 4 figures, two of them I had them for one unit and two of them for another unit. But I had to find out which units kind of operated together, so I would be able to pick the right ones next to each other, so to speak. So I did that for two auxilia stands. And what else did I do? I may have painted like a unit of Saloy. Maybe that's as far as I got. And then it was like, oh, I'm not going to get the army painted in time. And they're sitting in my box. They're not based or anything. Just like these Athenians that I have over here. I got like 5 figures into the Athenians and never finished them. Um, from Zyston. These are actually the only Zyston figures I've ever painted. That's not true. That's not true. I've painted a few guys for, I think, 2 figures for my Ptolemaics, and one of them is the general, and the other one is the standard bearer that's on one of the pike stands. Um, yeah, I'm trying not to do that. Try to start an army, finish it, not get pulled into 50 directions because then you don't have anything to show for it. Um, Anyhow, but yeah, now if I had to do it again, I would just say the heck with it. I'm just going to do, one of the units of the auxilia will have all this all of this unit. The other one will have all of this unit. But I do want to get one that's served on the east, or served on the west. I think one of the things is missing, like Eastern cavalry units. If I remember correctly, it's been a long time since I've looked at it, but like the Eastern cavalry units are not described which ones they are, so you have to come up with their shield patterns out of nowhere, which, it's you can make an educated guess kind of thing. But anyhow, do Essex figures match up okay with Essex? Well, they're a lot bigger. I think just about anything matches up with anything else. Unless you're doing, I mean, it's not that big of a deal. People are different sizes. I've got in my Irish army, I have a extremely large auxilia figure that's on the same stand with a very small one. And they're just different size folks. Um, it doesn't really bother me. It's not even that noticeable after they're painted. Um, some people want all their figures painted by the same manufacturer. I don't care as long as it's not a unit that, like, if I was building, say, Marian Roman Legionnaires, yeah, I want them to be all the same manufacturer. And I don't even mind if they're all in the same pose. Because because it's just my vision that they're, they're more orderly than maybe other periods, more regimented. So I don't mind that look, but that's just kind of a personal preference. What you prefer. If I'm doing feudal knights, I want them all to be different poses if possible. That kind of stresses their individuality and goes along with them having individual shields and so forth. So, and a lot of it is what figures you already have. Like I've got these spearmen there. Every single one of them is in the same pose, but I already had them. So, that's not ideally what I would want maybe, but that's what I have. So there's no point in throwing more money at the problem and buying other figures when I'm perfectly happy with the ones that are here. So I did paint them differently, but their shields are the same because, I just figured the fluff of my story is when they were recruited, they didn't have anything to them. Just, yeah, just show up and we'll give you a shield and wear pants, or something like that. And we'll give you a spear and a shield. So the spears and the shields were all the same, all the same pattern because they didn't have any. They were issued by the state. So that's how I justify that kind of stuff. Right or wrong, you got to make those kind of calls, from time to time. Put your own kind of spin on how things you want to do, your own artistic spin on it. All right, so this is what this guy looks like. And I'm gonna go get another beverage. I'm coming right back. I'm starting to a little bit. I don't mean like I'm getting intoxicated. I mean like I'm getting a little tired. So we're gonna try and see if we can scrounge up some iced coffee. I'll be right back. Well, speaking of book one armies, one thing I don't think I've ever mentioned is I know that I've said the reason I don't like book one armies is not necessarily because of the troop composition, but there's just such little information available about them, and you just have to invent too many things, and it's kind of a big job, I think. I mean, a lot of people are like, "Cool, I can paint whatever you want," but I'm like, I want to be reasonable, also. Oh, what do we have here? Another good book I read this year was Mithridates the Great, Rome's Indomitable Enemy by Philip Matizak. I think that's a new book, isn't it? Poison King. I've done the Poison King by Adrienne somebody or another. It was pretty decent. It was pretty decent. Yeah, that army was on my to-do list, and then Mitch went and bought one. Oh, that guy's out the window. I got to get around to getting my Pyrrhic army done sooner or later. There's another list of things I want to do. But talk about book one. One of the reasons I don't like about them, other than they don't, I have to invent too many things, and not a lot of information is known about them. And notice it's not that you can't. It's not that I don't know anything about them, and I don't mind, and I don't want to research them. There's nothing, not much information available about them. Period. Unless you get in a time machine. So the other thing also is I don't like the fact that De Bellis Antiquitatis is written in Latin, and a lot of these armies predate Latin. So how do you justify that? I don't think I've mentioned that before. But it's not because I'm hung up on I want to do Romans or stuff. I've never played Romans in anything prior to DBA. I've never played any ancients or medievals or anything like that prior to DBA. Never have. So I wouldn't have known who the hell Mithridates was if I wouldn't have looked into it. Maybe wanted to build his army and read a book about him. It is all about learning. At least for me, it is. It's a huge chunk of it. So speaking of books, there's a new book coming out like in October or September by Dan Jones. So I don't remember what the hell it's about. It's some feudal thing. So I'm sure I'll be picking that up. Hopefully he narrates it. Anyways, it's supposed to be out on Audible then. It may actually already be out in like actual print form, but I'm just fooling myself if I'm actually going to get through a book. So there is one book that I picked up at the used bookstore a while ago, and this is one way I can read it. Let me see. Let me see if I can find it here. It's a book on the condottieri. That's the mercenary, Italian mercenary commanders of the late medieval period. And I don't know where the hell it is now. It's an old book. Its book is so old that I didn't mind taking it to the library. I mean, not taking it to the beach, because I'm like a freak when it comes to keeping books in good shape. I don't get dog-eared or anything like that. So here it is. I found it. It's an old book. Fresno State College. So this is a book that was written probably in the 40s. Remember these things? Little book card. Flashback. Oh look, somebody put it with a typewriter. Oh, look at this when it was checked out. Anyways, this book is called Captains of Fortune. And it's these short stories on, I want to say it's 4 different condottieri. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I was wrong. 6 different condottieri. And these guys are chapter 1, Son of the Devil. Hopefully I will say these right. I have half of a clue how to say them speaking Spanish, so Italian is almost the same. Son of the Devil. Ezzelino da Romano. Never heard of him. Prince of the Wolfhounds. Catruccio Castracani. Never heard of him. Giovanni the Sharp. Sir John Hawkwood. Well, everybody's heard of him. Serpent and Lion. The Count of Carmagnola. He's actually a greatest general list. According to Phil Barker, he's considered a greatest generalist. The reason I bought this book was the next guy, the abominable pagan, Sigismondo Pandolfo Malatesta. It's an interesting guy. The reason why I wanted to do him is not because he's a deviant. I don't know if he was that deviant, but because all these high and mighty people always have these habits that you wouldn't want anybody in your family to have. You know what I'm saying? But Pete's Flags makes a set of flags for him, and he has an elephant on his flags. So that's kind of unique type of thing. So when I was going to build my condottieri army, also known as Italian Condata, that's what mine was going to be, and Malatesta's army. And then the last one, Giovanni the Black Bands, Giovanni de Medici. He's the latest period. It's kind of in order from earliest to latest. Uh, Malatesta's right there in the early 1400s, early to mid 1400s. But this period is really confusing because a lot of these guys ended up siding with one guy. Like they'd fight for Venice, and then they would go and they'd get bought out by Milan, and they would come back, and then they would lead the Milanese forces. And it's like, talk about free agents. Like if I was like running Milan or Venice, I wouldn't trust any of these guys. But anyhow, interesting stuff. So this is a 300-page book or so. So you could just go in there and read the one chapter that you want about the one guy, and and go from there. But it is very convoluted history, but it really could go any which way. But yeah, I didn't get that army done because Buddy Joe ended up building the Kandahar army. That's fine. I've got lots of things I want to do, but. Anyhow, by the way, since I know you like World War II, I do. I highly recommend Rising Sun, Falling Skies by Jeffrey Cox about Japan's naval campaign in the Java Sea. Interesting. That's the period that I like. I have read, speaking about how I don't read books. Well, I haven't read one in a long time, but I do read books. And one of them, my period is not, of World War II, is not the Pacific at all. I'm not a fan of it. You've heard me mention before that I'm already American. I don't like the war game Americans because it's kind of boring, you know. This book is excellent. Guadalcanal by Richard Frank. And see, I've read this and it looks almost unused. What's this down here? Oh, fluff. This is, I don't like, I'm extremely anal retentive when it comes to stuff like that. But I think if this comes on Audible, I would probably take it and listen to it again. But yes, I read this. I read this for the purpose back when we were doing naval wargaming to get ideas for scenarios. I noticed that on my Audible list, this book became available. This is an excellent book by Paul Halpern, A Naval History of World War One, and it focuses not necessarily on Jutland and the stuff that you might know about, but it focuses on the Mediterranean and the kind of odd stuff that you're not as familiar with. This just became available on Audible, so I may end up picking this up and listening to it again. One of the war gamers that I know is a history major, and he got his PhD in history, and this was one of his professors at Florida State University. I said, that's pretty cool. I read his book. So, but again, you've got to know, to enjoy this kind of stuff, you have to kind of already know about the period, I think. It would be if I picked up a book on football. Either one, whether you want to play the American one or the European one, it wouldn't do me any good. I'm not going to be able to follow along, But you've got to have kind of just some general knowledge already to fall back on, History and geography, it's just more like filling in the blanks of things you already know to kind of get them all tied together, not like learning things from scratch. So, yeah, that Guadalcanal book is excellent. I remember reading it. I probably read it close to around 1990, 91, something like that. And I remember thinking, man, those Japanese were screwed. I mean, the Japanese were just, I'd have to reread it again, but that's what I remembered. It was like they'd land in the wrong place and have to trek. They'd only have food for 3 days. And and it would take them 6 days to round everybody up, so they're already malnourished. Then they get other reinforcements. It was just a zoo. But I was reading that when a buddy of mine, we're doing a lot of naval wargaming, and he was big in the Pacific. And I'm like, okay, I can do the Pacific as long as it's, as long as the Allies don't have like two different ship types, and we weren't doing carriers and stuff because carriers kind of ruin the whole ships blowing, so when you're doing iron bottom sound and stuff, there's a lot of potential there. Java Sea stuff, love the ABDA stuff. We ran a little mini campaign in ABDA, and some crazy stuff happened in the campaign that you got a war game. It doesn't matter whether it's balanced or not. It happens, so you've got to put the ships out on there, and sometimes things, just like a DBA game, they go they go sideways and they go things how you weren't gonna, it was like, oh, it's a foregone conclusion that we're gonna win, and then you don't, and that's really what makes it interesting. But as much as I like World War II, I've never had so many fun experiences playing any game as I have when we've played DBA. So DBA has its faults, it has its limits, it's not perfect, but enjoyment value and like gotcha, this is a great game kind of moments is second to none in my book and all the wargaming I've done. And I played ASL and stuff like that. I love World War II stuff, but there just isn't that level of enjoyment. And I think a lot of it is because there's not any fog of war. There is fog of war, but not for you, the player. You're kind of like a god, and you're moving your little minions, and your minions don't listen to you, and in the form of a pip or whatever, and things happen that you can't control, but you can see everything that's happening to you and the other player. So there isn't fog of war, but there's limiting factors, and I think that makes a better game because it's not like your opponent is seeing a different version of what's really happening. Like I've played blind advanced squad leader before. It's a great game, but I'm experiencing something on one side that the other guy isn't. So he may be thinking that A, B, and C are happening, and it's really F, G, and H. And when you're done after the session, the whole time is, you're fooling each other. It's a different kind of a game, but it's nice to see that since both opponents can see everything that is happening to their troops, good and bad, you both get to experience the whole thing as a whole. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I think it makes a better game. I wouldn't have thought it, but after playing the other kind of games as well, I think it makes a better game. So, Iron Bottom Sound, I agree. World War One naval is very interesting once you know about the pre-dreadnought period and naval arms race. Yeah, it is. Yeah, if I got into naval war gaming again, I'd do 1880s, 1890s, and then you could have a lot of what if scenarios where anybody could fight anybody, and they could be small engagements. It wouldn't have to be these massive campaigns. So you could ram people. Ramming's fun, man. It doesn't matter whether it's good for you or not. That's one of the funnest things when you're playing like surface ships is ramming other ships. That's exciting because it never happens. It's so rare, but when it does, it's glorious. It's so glorious. One of the things that would be really cool, and I've never seen anybody do it, because I've read several books on Jutland, and it's not that I'm hung up on doing Jutland like it's some kind of Waterloo or something like that, but there is a lot of information on it. And one of the things I've never seen anybody try to war game is the night action, where the British fleet is actually ahead of the Germans, but they're not sure where the other one is, and the dreadnoughts and the high seas fleet has to cross behind the British or really through them is to do an action with that kind of stuff. I've never seen anybody do a war gaming. Now it would be difficult to do because there would be a lot of like fog of war, and you would also have to find out what conditions some of those German ships were in because they did get battered by the Grand Fleet as they turned away while there was still daylight. But I've never seen anybody do that. I think that would be a complete zoo, and I mean that in a good way. So, but yeah, yeah, that Halpern book is really good. It goes into a lot of if I remember correctly, it goes into a lot of the sorties that the Goeben and the Breslau did in the service of Turkey in the Black Sea against the Russians. Um, so, anywho, where are we left for this guy? Let's do his bow. I love naval wargaming. The problem with naval wargaming is that there's no terrain. You don't have these anchor points generally with terrain. and you have to have a love for the ships. If you're not a ship nut, I don't see how you would enjoy it. I am. I mean, I'm. That's what we grew up playing, and we grew up playing Sea Creed 4, and learning about, oh, okay, this one has this much armor, and this one has this much armor, and that's all we did. I mean, I remember, what would it have been, 1992. We ended up playing the New Year's Eve battle. I think that's what we always used to call it. I think the correct name of it's called the Battle of the Barents Sea. That's the battle there in the December 31st, 1942, where you've got the Hipper and the Lutzow, and each of them with three destroyers, and they go two different ways against one of the convoys that's going to through the Arctic Circle, escorted by Sheffield, Jamaica, and a handful of destroyers. That's a really balanced battle, and I always like scenarios that involve a convoy with the chance of the convoy getting shelled. Sorry, you guys that are merchant marines, but it's kind of fun seeing those. It's kind of fun seeing the shells landing on the merchant vessels in the middle of a battle. But I'll tell you one thing: anything better than that is when you get an aircraft carrier getting shelled. That's always fun. But my favorite period to do was the Mediterranean in World War II, because the Mediterranean in World War II had a chance for both sides, mainly being British and Italian, having battleships, heavy cruisers, light cruisers, aircraft. If in reasonably small quantities that you could handle, you have the Eagle, the aircraft carrier Eagle, that has a very small complement of planes. I believe it was 21 aircraft. I believe it was 18 strike aircraft, and the rest of them were cap aircraft, whether they were Hurricanes or what have you, Gloucester Gladiators. I don't remember, depending on the period. But that's a reasonable aircraft carrier to use. It's not like it's overpowering, And then you've got land-based aircraft that you can use for the Italian forces if need be. Submarines, everything. So convoys, obviously, extremely important there. I think it's a great venue for that. And anyhow, yeah, I love naval wargaming, but I'll probably never play another naval wargame again because they just take too long. And it's not that I'm too bored; it's just they just take too long to get to finish one. You know, something taking too long and being bored are two different things altogether. There's a game that's came out maybe 10 years ago called Here I Stand. It's a it's a game that I think it's a GMT game that is represents like the Reformation and Renaissance Reformation kind of stuff. So you've got different players. It's card driven, but there's combat and stuff like that. We ended up playing that game for 10 and a half hours, and I wasn't bored for a second. So yes, it's a long game, but it's not like I was bored. The problem with those long games is they take a lot of people to play, and it's a pain if you have to leave them set up because you need an area to set up, or you have to spend like 3 hours writing down where every single thing is. Those things are a lot better, I think, on computer because you can be like, okay, we're ready to play, and you press a button, everything's set up. Yeah, Here I Stand's a great game. Yep. You ran a game of Jutland 6000. Do that again. I'll do it in pieces. Yeah. Or do one of the carrier raids. I'm not carrier raids, the battle cruiser raids. So I've got the Black Sea Fleet and the Goban and Breslau. I got the Turkish and the Russian Black Sea fleets in 6,000 scale. I do. I haven't painted the Russians. I think I only got the Goban, and I stopped. The problem I was having was I don't like painting those little waters. I don't like painting the little waves and stuff on it. I always put my ships on stand. Well, I didn't way back when, but I did, and I'd write the name of them on there. But I just wanted it like a solid blue. But I still have them there somewhere. It's just not my thing right now. So, all right, let's paint this guy's. Enough talk. Um, I could talk, just got to get stuff done. The bow on this guy. But yeah, I've got the. If I had to do it again, that's the skill I want to do because it's it's not that it's inexpensive. It's a lot easier to paint. I've got modern ships in that scale. You want to see them? I got this game called Shipwreck, and I need to get off my. I just need to stop fanning about and read the rules, but I'm just not much of a rules person. But I did get these guys. They're 1/6000 scale, and they're 3D printed, and I think they turned out really well. I got a scenario that I pulled off somewhere on the net that involves Japanese, Chinese, and Taiwan. And, all right, let's see if we can get enough lighting on them. These are my Japanese ships, and these are my Chinese ships for that scenario. And these are all 3D printed from Shapeways. They're on popsicle sticks, and they are magnetized. So, and I think they turned out really well. I mean, you can find the real ships, so you can hand paint where some of those lines are to give them some individuality. He's got some phalanxes, whatever. That's what you see in white there. I believe that's what they are. Maybe they're radar domes. I don't remember. And I printed out their little names. So what's this? Kirishima, Natago. You know all those names that you recognize for World War II ships? Yep. They rehashed them for modern. Let's see if we can get this thing to focus. Come on. Yeah, so we got a helicopter carrier, the Issei, Takanami, Ashigara, and then, the Chinese, the bad guys over here. Of course, when I was doing them, they weren't being boycotted, but yeah, definitely. So my scenario was, I figured if I was going to do modern, and the only reason to do modern is to do what if stuff, not necessarily that I'm in love with modern combat, but a lot of that stuff with them building those islands out of nowhere, and you could definitely see conflict coming in there. So, anyways, I got these painted. They paint up quick. That's the reason to do them, and you can actually have a sizable. And definitely, if you're going to do modern, you want to do this scale because it's more in scale with the game scale, which is really out of whack for modern. But you don't want to use 2400 scale ships for modern stuff, or unless you're playing in the neighborhood. That's your modern chosen naval set. Have you played it? I have the rules set, but I find it overwhelming to to figure out how to play something for the first time. I'd rather be painting. I'd rather be painting. So yeah, I got the Taiwanese ship. The Taiwanese ships are actually lead because they're ex-American ships. They're I want to say they're Knox class frigates, and you got some Spruances and some Knox class frigates or whatever. Obviously, they're renamed, but they make North Korean stuff. They make South Korean stuff. That's what I would do. I would focus on that weird things. I've got some French corvettes. And I figured there's a French corvette that's involved in something over here, But I don't want to build the U.S. frickin' Navy or the Russian Navy. I'm not really interested in that. I'm interested in doing oddball things. Not even the Indians. They have a extremely large Navy for something like this. So, anyhow. Yeah, just something to do. They were fun to paint. So if I never do anything with them, they were still fun to paint. But that's how I would go about them. I'd magnetize them so you can just carry them in there, and you don't have to worry about them getting damaged. But I think they turned out pretty well for being through Shapeways. They were pretty inexpensive. Although I think the last time I checked out for Shapeways, their prices have just like skyrocketed. But like I said before, things aren't expensive unless you buy them and don't do anything with them. But if you're actually painting them or whatever, enjoying them, then you're getting some bang out of it. But just buying stuff just to collect it, just to say that you have it, is that's old school. We try not to do that anymore. Who was that? What just fell over? Oh well. Yeah, I have the rules. I haven't figured out how to play them yet. Oh well. I just I, I don't want to figure out how to play some. I don't mind playing other rules. I just don't want to be the go-to guy on anything else. You know. Like we played a half dozen games of Gaslands, and I think that's a fun game. That's a fun game where crazy stuff happens. I think that's what our group enjoys. We enjoy crazy things happening. But the last time we played, we didn't finish the game. It just took too long. And we ran out of time. I think it's a fun game. It's a game where you have to, like DBA, you have to do meaningful decisions have to be made every turn, especially in that game. You roll your dice, and that shows what kind of maneuvers you're allowed to do, and or what you put your maneuver first, and then you roll your dice. I think that's what it is. I don't know. It's been so I mean, it's been a year, but man, I just forget. That's a fun game. You know, I that would be fun to film us playing once we played it enough that we're not making a bunch of stupid mistakes, because that's that's unsatisfying. So, but that's a fun game. I'm surprised by how many people. I'm not very active on the group anymore, but I'm surprised there was lots of people that would say, "Hey, here's my new vehicle. I need a name," and I'm like, "Dude, I named the vehicle before I built it. I named the vehicle and the driver before I ever build the vehicle. That's the fun part. But and I bought one of those mats. I bought one of those mats. It's made out of like the mouse pad material, it's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous, and we haven't used it one time. So I've used it as a background for a couple of pictures I took of some of my vehicles, but I actually don't know how it looks as good as it does. It's just simply amazing. It's like a warehouse type industrial. It's a city one. It's not the dirt track that lots of people get. I don't think there's a way I can show you guys on here. Is there a way I can show you guys on here? Let's see. Create a poll. No. Show your no. Okay. Custom emojis. No. Hide chat. That won't do it. What's this? Pop out chat. I don't know how to do it. I'm just an ignoramus. I'm just putzing around here. Maybe I'll take a picture of it and put it on the community tab. I know how to do that. Maybe we can mess around with what is it, Streamlabs? You can incorporate this in it once I get a internet connection that's worth a damn. We can pop things on there. I don't mind it being more interactive. Yeah, I don't even remember who makes it anymore. It was expensive. It was like $50 or $60 or something like that. But man, it's gorgeous. I'll put a picture up there by tomorrow. Hopefully, I'll remember and I'll put it up there of some shots of the vehicles. Could just read the box. Who makes it? I don't, it's a pain to put back in the box. I'll tell you that much. But and it came from the UK. I'm not. Maybe it didn't come from the UK. I don't know. It wouldn't come from the UK now, man. The shipping's just out of control. Out of control. Oh well. Not if you really need something, you still get it, but you just got to think about it 3 times instead of just twice. All right, we're done with the bow there. I think we're done with the bow there. All right, let's paint his fleshy bits. But yeah, I like naval war game, but you gotta know about the ships. It's all about the ships. It'd be like playing a superhero game and not knowing anything about the superheroes. It's kind of like kind of defeats the purpose. So, but there's not time to play everything. You know, I mean, even with there's a limited amount of time. You're like, okay, well, if I'm doing something else, then I'm not doing this. So and we enjoy this. We kind of know this. We're entertaining other people. You come across articles all the time like how to get more viewers and stuff like that, and some basically what the consensus is you do your niche thing that it is you do. Don't start doing like, okay, Tony bakes cakes, stuff like. Well, that would be bad because I anything that involves cooking ish, well, it'd probably be entertaining. It'd be kind of like the Swedish Chef burning shit down, but don't start extrapolating into directions that your your audience isn't interested in. And that makes sense because I'm not chasing the viewers necessarily. I'm kind of doing my thing. I've been doing this for a while. I don't know everything, but there's some stuff that I do know about. And I don't mind sharing that with you guys. I know that some people are like, I don't want to give away my secrets, and I'm like, I'll just give them all away, man. I don't care. It's just a trick. I'm more interested in keeping the camaraderie slash community alive than I am making a buck or something like that. So I don't mind giving away tricks. Maybe we can exchange tricks. Maybe I'll do something that saves you guys some time or keeps you from being frustrated in the hobby and giving it up. You know, no reason to do that. This should be all therapeutic. If this hobby's causing you stress, you're doing it wrong. It's like if you go to the bar and it causes you to get into bar fights, you're doing it wrong. I think the last time I talked about it, it's probably been a week, but I've joined a couple of car forums, for real, one-to-one scale vehicles. And man, they're really toxic. I mean, like really toxic. Like, you got your smart ass responders or whatever, and they're just people that just belittle you no matter what. I'm like, man, if our DBA or wargaming community was like that, it'd be some banned people. But that's the people, not necessarily whatever it is that they're doing. I've encountered that in other hobbies, you know, people that are like, I feel like, hey, I'm here and I have one of these, and they'll be like, oh, that sucks. I have four of them and they're terrible. They're always trying to outdo each other, and it's like, come on, man, have some camaraderie, not be nasty to each other. But really, really toxic. I couldn't like, who wants to be part of that? That's the same thing with other hobbies. I've been involved in other hobbies, and it's the same thing. You get half the people that are in it are cool, and half of those people are really cool. But half the people you don't ever want to see anywhere ever again. I mean, if they got hit by a bus, you'd think about throwing a party. You know, they're that you don't want to be around them that much. So now we've got how many people in the biggest DBA group on Facebook? 3,000 people. These groups have like 75,000 people, so there's a lot of traffic on them all the time. So I was just like, man, And there's been some toxic stuff on some of the war game groups. I don't get into that. I'm certainly have strong opinions about things. There's no doubt about it, but I don't need to shove them down somebody's throat because I'm not going to convert anybody. So what's the point, you know? Hey, my favorite color is green. If yours is red, that's cool. Let's go grab a beer. But not, you know, you're an idiot for liking green. You don't need that. You don't need that. I know one of the war game shows I was trying to introduce this one guy that I was gaming with who was into miniatures a long time ago, but the current game group he's involved in doesn't like miniatures. I actually don't like dice much. But anyway, so this was several years ago. This maybe even been 10 years ago. I get him to finally go to a con and try DBA, and he's having a good time. But one of his the leader on his team, it was a group game. The leader on his team ends up being a toxic fellow, which, to be honest with you, after playing DBA for 18 years, I've only come across maybe four people that are like this, and this is one of them. And he just totally turned him off from playing the game. So not only were you a butthole, but now you've taken somebody who, and this particular person is a really nice guy. He has a good attitude. He's not, yeah, he tries to win, but he's not a win at all cost kind of guy. And he just turned him out. He just turned him off from playing DBA because of the experience that he had with this one particular fellow. So there aren't many out there that I've encountered in DBA, but this one just happened to be one of them that was just, you know, he's angry when he wins, and he's angry when he loses, so he's just angry all the time. It's like, okay, don't be discouraging folks, man. This may be someone's therapy. Don't ruin it for them. But there aren't very many people that I've encountered like that, fortunately, in DBA. Certainly in other games. And I don't know why I would say that DBA is better than those other ones. Maybe because both people are just as involved. I think part of the problem is you have a game, especially one that has a lot of players, and some people are just standing around, just sitting around. And when it's their turn to finally go, things don't go right, because it is a game. They don't roll well, and they're frustrated. They wasted a whole freaking day sitting around for a game, and then when they finally got to play, they botched it and had no fun. I get it, but I think DBA is not one of those games. You're just as involved getting your ass beat as you are if you're winning, because the other guy also has to roll. And I don't know if that helps the situation. If that's a big determinant, I think it is. But I found that people that I played in DBA are better humor than in other war games because everybody's just as involved as the other. And it's over quick. If you do end up playing somebody you don't enjoy, you only have to put up with them for about 55 minutes or less. So, and in my wargaming past, I have had people that have been in our gaming group, not this one, but other ones in the past, where two big people I can think of in particular just love to argue. Just love to argue for the. I mean, if you like to argue that much, they make a thing called a courtroom where you can go and do that. But that's not my idea of a good time. That was before the keyboard commandos. They were in person commandos. So we'll finish this guy's face up. We got his hair to do. We have a helmet there. Some arrows that are stuck in the ground. Of course, the leggings. And then it sounds like a lot, but it's all small amounts of paint there. The shirt and these hands are really what takes the longest. Not the hands of the face. I mean, it's the flesh in general. So. No, a lot of the attitude that people have also is what kind of experience they're having while they're playing your game. There's one game in particular that the last game that I played at a convention with Mitch that was not DBA was our local convention. I wanted to play one of this guy's games because he does really, really pretty miniatures or whatever in his games. But he's always doing a scale or a period or both that I'm not particularly interested in. And this particular game that we got in on was a Civil War game, and it was Ironclads. And I think I mentioned this the other day, but we wanted to play it, and Mitch and I played on the same side, which we never get a chance to do. But the game was structured so that we were fighting these turret monitors. We had these. We played Confederates because it's more fun. It's more fun to do redneck voices than it is to not do redneck voices. So of course that's what we're going to do. So we had these casemate ships that say they fired a 45-degree angle off the center line or whatever. So the enemy would be over here and they would be out of arc, and then when we'd move, when we end, I was at arc again, but I went past them, and there was no mechanism in the game to be able to do opportunity fire, or at least fire as I went through. So basically, what happened is I didn't get to shoot, and then they pounded me every turn. Well, that's not a fun game. You just sit there and getting pounded. So we'll never play that again. So it was like, oh, okay, well, we probably shouldn't have done this for 4 freaking hours, and we didn't even get the chance to to fire. Now, I'm not a fan of opportunity fire. I think it slows the game down. But if you can move, if you're not in, if you can move, if someone can move through your arc and you don't even get the chance to fire on them because they moved, it's an ironclad. They're not moving that freaking fast. They're moving what, 7 knots at the most, something like that. Yeah, that's a broken game in my opinion. It's not about winning. It's about can I at least roll some dice to hit them? So. All right. What hair color are we going to use for this guy? Black. Done. Settled. Make it so. Well, thanks for you guys stopping by. It is kind of in the evening, which sometimes it's harder to get players unless they're all on this side of the world. So I appreciate you guys coming by. Keep me company. Listen to me talk to myself. The monologue continues. There's a tiny little bit of highlighting here. And then we'll go and do his little helmet. All right, I am certain that that metal is not alive anymore. It's long gone. No. Where did it go? Here it is. All right, let's not waste the best face brush on this. There's a little bit of like a banding there at the base of that helmet. I'll paint that in so that it'll stand out a little bit. Doesn't look like he's just wearing a metallic cone on his head, which is kind of what it is. Hey, you with a pointy head. All right, let's get brass out. I know it's dry as well. Or the bronze, I should say, not brass. Bronze. It's almost 9, it's bedtime. No, we're gonna at least go to bed at 10 tonight. I want to get these guys done. Then tomorrow we can spray these guys along with the spearmen. Start putting them together. That'll be the spearmen would be the 3rd stand, and these 3 guys would be the 4th, 5th, and 6th stand. So half the army's technically done, stand wise. All right. We have a leather brown out here, don't we? We do. It's right here. Let's use this as a base. See where this takes us. Takes us where no one has gone before. I've only seen 3 episodes of that, of the original series. I'm not a science fiction fan. I mean, I used to watch Lost in Space as a kid because there was nothing else to watch. I mean, these people are spoiled now with a million different channels they can watch, or, at least kids. I'm like, we watched whatever was on. That's it. And it doesn't mean we liked it. It was just like we wanted to watch TV, and that's what was on, and you either watched that or you didn't watch any TV. But never much of a science fiction fan. History's just too cool for me. And I know there's a minority. I know that science fiction's a hell of a lot more captivating than history is for most people, but not really my thing. Ugh. Yep, drinking coffee and yawning. See, I can multitask. Leggings. What color leggings this guy gonna have? We haven't got with white leggings yet. Nope, it's him. That's what it is. Yeah, why is it why people like science fiction so much? They get it from their dads, or definitely affected by whatever your dad watches. I certainly was. He was never into westerns. I never got into westerns. Surprised they could do a whole book on Stilicho, though. That's seems like there just wouldn't be enough material for that. He got executed, didn't he? They thought he was too big for his britches and executed him. Ah, we got commentary. Good. Personally, you're a big science fiction fan, but nothing beats history for real plots and storytelling. Even my parents were into sci-fi, but my imagination just ate it up. All this oil painted, working on it, almost there. The only science fiction I watched as a kid, watched Lost in Space because it was on. What else would it call? What was that show with the What was that show, same time period of Lost in Space, where they had the freaking submarine that would go underwater, and then there would be like the admiral. He had like this little launch that he would fly out of there or whatever. I watched that, some of the Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea or something like that. Those were old when I watched them. They were, well, they weren't that old. They were, I guess, 10 years old when I watched them. Watched them in the late '70s. Never. What else? Oh, I'd watch Johnny Quest with my dad. He liked that. Johnny Quest cartoon. Um, can't say I got it in anything else. Um, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, yeah. I remember catching that a couple times. But, it was old. It was 10 years old when I watched it. That was like, what, mid 60s? I was probably 65, 66, 67. One of those. So I was probably watching those in 76, 77, 78, 79, 80. Something like that. So the first cartoon I really got into as a kid was science fiction. Johnny Quest is the best, yeah. Would it be offensive now having an Indian kid named Haji? Well, they didn't pick on him. It's just he was there. Is it better not to have Indian people in the cartoon? I remember that episode where they're fighting the invisible monster. Remember the episode with the invisible monster, where they create this monster that has like one eye. And the only way they could find him where it was, they shot like paint at him. I remember that. That's the only plot I could remember. But I remember I liked how the art was done. The art was done um, well, not dorky. Um, I'm a big fan of. I'm not that I'm a big cartoon watcher, but I can't stand cartoons that are like I can draw better than the cartoon. Like, well, why am I even watching this? Why don't I just make my own? But yeah, Johnny Quest. So the cartoon I liked as a kid, we were living in Alabama at the time in the late '70s, was one that was reported for the United States. It was called the United States here was called Battle of the Planets, and it's these five kids that turn into birds, or I think the Japanese name for it is Science Team Gotcha Man or something like that. Um, and I think the cartoon actually hails from like 1972, 1973, and it was deemed too violent for for children here in the United States. So they chopped it up and added little sequences in it and kind of dumbed it down for the U.S. audience. But that was like one of the first anime type things. But it doesn't really look like the anime of when you think of anime. When you think of anime, it's like, why would I watch any of that stuff? But I dug that as a kid. I thought that was really cool. The bad guys would, these aliens, they would always have some kind of contraption that had to take over something in the in the world, and it was always in the shape of something that already existed in the world. So there'd be like this huge monster, and it'd be like in the shape of a vulture or a octopus or something like that. It wasn't just some arbitrary thing. It was some animatronic type huge thing, and of course it went sideways, always, and But I remember that as a kid. I liked that, No, I was like 7, 8 years old, whatever. That's the first cartoon I really got into. But I didn't realize it at the time that it was 6 years or 7 years earlier when it actually had come out. So, um, Outer Limits. Mr. Rick, there you are. I definitely did not take after my dad. He was always into the other stuff. Andy Griffith, it's black and white. Who can see that? Twilight Zone, black and white. Petticoat Junction, black and white. Beverly Hillbillies, black and white. I watched them with him, but I had other interests. The only one of those old shows that I watched with my dad, and it wasn't black and white, was Hogan's Heroes, and I'm dying to find it to show it to my daughter. But you've got to like understand some World War II stuff to get it. But I remember watching that with my dad. I've fond memories of that. Those other ones, yeah, my dad watched them too, but they're black and white, so I'm out. I don't do black and white. Um, Outer Limits. Can't say that I've ever seen that. You watched Battle of the Planets every afternoon with my siblings. Yeah, you must be my age. Yep. Good times, man. I remember there's that one episode, okay? And it was like I found there's like one episode that scared me as a kid. Okay, I don't do demonic stuff, as you know. And there's one episode where the monster they went was the giant space mummy. I think that's actually what it's called, the giant space mummy. It's like on season one or whatever, and it's like this huge mummy. It's like attacking the airport, So they get the Japanese defense force or whatever in their little tanks or whatever, and they're all blasting it, and the planes come in and attack it, and end up burning all of like it had what do you call it, wrappings like a mummy. They blast it all off. Underneath there's like this demonic creature. It looks like the freaking a huge demon. And I remember being like 7 or 8 years old and like like, ooh, that's scary. Well, yeah, it's a freaking two-dimensional cartoon, but I remember still like, ooh, you know and I think that's what the episode's called, the Giants, because that's how their episodes were. They were like the space terrapin, so it was like a big turtle that came in and and did things, and went and attacked things, and stuff like that. So yeah, I remember that as a kid, man. And I'd watch it now if you could find them, but I'd want the unedited version. And they were going to make a movie at some point, and I remember the main leader of the kids was voiced by Casey Kasem, and yeah, it was good times, man. But you had to watch it when it was on. You couldn't record it. And if you missed it, you missed it. You know, this thing now where it's like, I'm going through this, I'm watching this like a sitcom, and you can watch them in the order that they came on Netflix or Hulu or whatever it is that you watch them. That didn't exist. Like, you know, you just kind of watched it, you know, and they weren't in order. And if they were, then you missed it and they did, we're spoiled now. Back then it was like, you got what you got and that's what you got. And, you got to go to the bathroom in the middle of the show. You better hold it. You're going to miss the show. Outer Limits was a series of shorts started by telling us not to try and adjust your television. Huh. Sounds like it would be something like Twilight Zone, which I didn't really see either, but is there any other science fiction I watched? We're not counting Star Wars. Of course, I've seen all those. But the original Star Trek episodes, I've only seen 3 episodes. Like I've only seen episodes 3 different times. Twice it was that one where they were stuck on the planet that was run like by the mob. So I'm like, it just like I didn't never saw any cool episodes like the spaceships or whatever fighting each other in space. That would be cool because it's like naval warfare just in a different type of thing. So I never got into that. And I had a friend of mine way back in the day who was really into Next Generation, so he watched that. But I never really cared for the Star Trek universe. I didn't grow up with it, and not my thing. Is there anything else that I would have seen that would have been science fiction? Can't think of it. I remember. I remember catching a few episodes of Land of the Lost because I was huge into dinosaurs back then. When I'm like 7 or 8 years old, that's like the only place you could see them, right? I mean, even as bad as they were, that was the only place where you could see dinosaurs. But I think it was something like they didn't have the channel in the town that we lived in, so I could only catch it somewhere else. But obviously it's a horrible show. But you know, horrible show with even worse hairstyles, man. The stuff that it's a good thing that I was a kid when in the 70s, man. The stuff that people always like to rip on the 70s for the music. Oh man, the music in the 70s was terrible. Dude, the style of things that people were wearing in the 70s was terrible. Like you had to be on some drugs to do with that. Interesting time of science fact. Probably interesting time of science fiction. Watch Outer Limits with Folks at Night was already syndicated. That and The Invaders had me researching all sorts of science fiction books. See, there's one plot device that I don't care for, and that's aliens. I don't care for aliens as a plot device. So usually, if I see, I have a friend of mine. Well, it's Scott. Scott doesn't like the plot device of time travel. I think it's cool if done correctly. Remember that old movie, the Time Machine, the one from 1960? If I watched it tomorrow, I might have a different impression of it. But I remember as a kid loving it growing up. Okay, but if you do time travel correctly, you know, it's okay. He doesn't like it because it's a cop out for them things not really happening and going back and revisiting it. I can see that, but I haven't experienced. He watches a lot more television than I do. I don't like his aliens. So as soon as I see something and it has aliens in it, I'm like, I'm out. You know, because it just seems too. It seems silly. Okay, like for instance, speaking of monster movies, what's that movie that was all the big hubbub about 10 years ago? Cloverfield. Okay, I've seen all 3 movies. The first movie, I thought it was actually a decent movie. I like how they filmed it. What I didn't like is the reactions that people would have if they saw something of that magnitude are just not what they would be. I mean, like nobody mentioned like, hey, that looks like a big. It was just kind of like they accepted it and they moved on. It was like there'd be a little bit more shock than that. Anyhow, just something really basic that they should have had something like that. But anyhow, the second movie, the second Cloverfield movie, is a great movie, except the ending. The ending was like, what the hell is somebody smoking? It was like the second movie was actually a great movie in and of itself with John. I mean, John Goodman did a great job. It was just the last 5 minutes or whatever it is. So, but as soon as the ending ruined it for me because what is it that I don't like? Yeah. So, if you do something that's like in the future or something like that, and there's aliens in there, but I'm talking about present day, everything's just like we have it now, but there's aliens. It's like not my thing. I'm gonna take this one out. So not an aliens fan. I mean, if you're watching the movie like say Alien, right, the one from 1979, yeah, that one's fine, but because it's in the future and outer space kind of thing. Right? All right, let's brighten this up a little bit. That's a great movie, by the way. For its time, other than the one scene that they're in the control room towards the end of the movie where she's trying to communicate with the other people, and you've got all these buttons that are constantly flashing and have nothing written on them, a la original Star Trek. I think the movie holds its own pretty well. It's not very dated, as opposed to, as I mentioned the other day, I had never seen Blade Runner, and I tried watching it a couple of weeks ago with my daughter, and 10 minutes in, I looked at her, I'm like, "You're not liking this, are you?" She's like, "No." I said, "Good, I'm not either. Let's go watch something else." It just did not date. It just did not age well. Age well is what I'm thinking of. That's the terminology. And some movies age okay, and some don't. And you know that's just one of them. But did I see Journey to the Beginning of Time, where some kids float down a river going backwards through time and dinosaur history? No. No. But one movie that did, I don't know if scar me is left a lasting impression. There we go. That's what we need to say. As a kid, because remember, we're thinking about dinosaurs. I never could remember what the name of this movie was, but I finally looked it up and I found it like 5 years ago or whatever. Okay. I saw clips of it and I'm like, oh my God, this is so bad. But the plot of this was called, it was a movie called The Last Dinosaur. And the plot is this mining team or whatever. I know I'm exaggerating it a lot. This mining team goes and drills into the center of the earth. And in the center of the earth is this land where there's dinosaurs or whatever. And one of the people on this team is a hunter who wants to hunt down a Tyrannosaurus Rex. And that's what he wants to do. And they run into all kinds of mishaps, like trying to get back or whatever. And this guy ends up staying there to hunt the last. It gets to a point in the movie where like, okay, well, we got to leave, and he's like, I'm not leaving because I'm staying here and killing this dinosaur. And it's kind of like, okay, well, you'll be all by yourself in this world. But I remember that as a kid, I'm like, okay, what's the movie that involves like this drilling machine that went? Because I remember it come on TV, that's where you would watch it. And it was this drilling machine that just went into the earth, and things like that, remind you of it. But yeah, you go look at clips of it, I'm like, that doesn't even remotely look like a dinosaur. I mean, I would have shit my pants if I would have seen something like, Jurassic Park or anything like that as a kid. I would have been just, I would have been in awe. But yeah, it's a terrible movie. I couldn't remember what it was, but I still remembered it to this day, that a couple of different scenes from it. And, we didn't have very many dinosaur options, in the 70s. So, you're right, that movie was horrible. It is. It is.
Oh. But you're a freaking 7 or 8 year old kid, It's like, oh, dinosaur. Oh, man. Yeah. Generally with movies now, it's not the acting. Generally, it's not the acting that's bad. It's the writing that's really bad. And, you know, speaking of dinosaurs, I did on my Audible thing, I basically have all nonfiction, except I did do the two Jurassic Park books. And it's really interesting how they're different from their movies. The second book is very different from the other movie, but the first book and the first movie are almost the same. You can tell that they definitely follow the path. And it's really interesting to see how some choices were made in the movie that were in the book. And you have to remember, this is kind of my first experience, and I hear this all the time. Some movies are based on a book. Well, I don't read books generally that movies come out on, so I don't have the chance to say, "Oh, the book was better." And you always hear that the book was better, the book was better, the book was better. I don't think the first Jurassic Park movie was. I think the movie was better than the book. I think the book focused a lot on the frickin' raptors, which as a dinosaur fan, as being a kid, I don't give a crap about raptors. They're human sized. I don't care how smart they are. I want huge creatures that like walk through a freaking car and knock things down. That's the kind of stuff I want to see, not some man sized thing that's smart. Ooh, who cares? Okay. I don't care about that. As a dinosaur fan, since being a kid, I don't care about raptors. So I focus too much on raptors and the eggs and all this crap. But, anyways, the book is worth reading, or at least it's worth having it read to you. But it is the movie and the book are very similar. They follow they're almost exactly the same with some slight variations. But I honestly think the movie's better, So, Time Tunnel. Oh, that's the name of the movie? Time Tunnel. Huh. Interesting. The river, huh? The molecules in the river don't go back in time. All right, what do we got? Arrows in the ground. So yeah, I never had a chance prior to doing that of saying, hey, the movie was, the book was better. I didn't. 'Cause oh man, every book I get is always obviously unabridged. Because otherwise, that's why am I even doing it? This is just like I'm not going to be able to stick with a book. But if I just listen to it on the way from work or mowing the lawn or anything else, I'll eventually get through it. So I think the first book highlighted the people running from the T-Rex. Yeah, I get them both mixed together now that because I read them literally one after the other. Yeah, it was, but it's yeah, but they're really similar. Um, I just the book certainly focused on the Raptors more than the movie did. I thought the movie was really good. And honestly, of all the series of movies, and I know all the series are bad because unlike video games, movies usually the first one is the best one. Now, generally the first movie is almost always the better than the second or third or fourth or and it just goes down from there. Video games, that's not the case, generally, or at least the ones I've played. So, but but in movies, that's almost is the case, and it's certainly the case with the Jurassic Park movies. But I don't really mind this series. I mean, yeah, they're stupid, but they're better than many other series. So that's not saying a whole lot. So it is about seeing the dinosaurs. You do get to see them, and out doing their thing. And I think the original movie still holds up. Graphics wise and stuff like that. So. Yeah, I would have been in heaven if that was around when I was a kid. It's interesting to see the things you remember as being a kid. You know, the things that stick with you. I don't necessarily mean scarring things. I mean, just things you remember from, being a kid. Like you remember this, but you don't remember something else. Why is that? Time Tunnel was a TV show made by the same folks who did Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. Oh, Irwin Allen Productions. Time Tunnel. Okay. Yeah, I don't mind the time travel as a plot as long as it's done reasonably. Like, for instance, obviously Back to the Future, which I still haven't seen the third movie, believe it or not, which is kind of amazing considering I like the first movie so much. It's definitely one of my favorite movies from the 1980s. I still haven't seen the third one. That's crazy. So, something like that, or even to a lesser degree, Butterfly Effect. But now, I mentioned this the other day that we tried watching that movie Tenet, and it just made my head hurt with the freaking. Because I do like that, you go back and you change one thing and it extrapolates into unintended consequences. But the Tenet thing was like, no, it's not time travel, it's moving backward. I'm like, no, I can't follow this. It's making my head hurt. I didn't do the kind of drugs that the people that wrote this did, so I'm not able to follow it. It was just making my head hurt. So, not going to finish that one. So, most of the cartoons watched with kids were Japanese. Didn't know that at the time. Also did Lost in Space, Poseidon Adventure, and Towering Inferno. Okay, those last two were movies, right? Which neither one of the two I've seen. Yeah, Towering Inferno is a. Isn't Heston in that? Anyhow, I haven't seen it. Speaking of monsters, King Kong. I think I've seen them all now. I don't know if I've seen the really, 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 really old one. I probably have, but I think the one that they came out with in '95 or whatever was pretty decent. I thought it was really decent. I think it was '95, maybe it was 2005. I don't know. I lose track of stuff. The one with Jack Black in it, I thought it was pretty decent. Now the second one, the Vietnam one, I couldn't stand. I was bored. Stand. I was bored to tears. Obviously, the one from 1976 is god awful. I remember watching that, but I thought the Jack Black one was pretty darn decent considering I think it's pretty cool. Oh, technically, there's one more, right? Because there's the Godzilla versus. Ah, that sucked. That one sucked. Heston's in it. I've stayed at the hotel they filmed in San Francisco. Godzilla. Godzilla. Godzilla versus King Kong. Endings so predictable. And I don't try to read ahead like the girls do. The girls watch a movie with the girls. Oh, I knew that was going to happen. Like, why are you worried about that? Just enjoy the movie. But this one's like, okay, too obvious. Like, no, we got to save it so we can make more money on both of them later on. Okay. You know who still could have taken out Godzilla? The freaking Kraken from Wrath, from the Titan movie. And I'm talking about the new Titan movie, that one that's bigger than he comes out of the water to go destroy a Greek city. And he's bigger than the freaking city. He's bigger than the entire city. You know, yeah, you can't stop that. You know, that guy wins. The new Clash the Titan ones. Yeah. That guy was huge. Man, that guy was huge. And of course, I remember all those claymation, Voyage of Sinbad movies, the original Clash of Titans, all that stuff that, used the claymation, And what was cool about that stuff is, it wasn't virtual. There was actually a model. So some lucky bastard had a model of a Cyclops or something like that in his, wherever in his house or whatever, or with the guy that made it. So you had a physical thing that they manipulated to, that's cool, you know? Yeah, I remember them things as a kid. I remember this friend that my parents had, and he was really big into the movies, big into the betas, and he'd tape everything off the TV. And he had kids, but they were older. He had grandkids that were, I think, a little younger than I was. I would go over there and they would just hang out and watch his movies. I'd go over there and watch the Sinbad movies, and this would have been what, early 80s? Yeah. Some movies you'd think would be easy to find. You just can't find them. And, yeah, I can buy it. I mean, just, with as many channels as we have now, I should be able to watch it, like, I'm not going to say for free, for no extra cost that I'm already paying a month for the subscription service. And, and movies I'm talking about is like, the original Ben-Hur. I'm talking about, what's the other one I want to show my daughter? The Three Musketeers stuff, and I'm talking about the old one, the one that was like 1940, the one with Vincent Price in it that has all the Errol Flynn and all the sword fights that come from all the other movies. Good stuff. Can't find those. They don't play them. They don't play them frequently. You know, um, or if they do, maybe I don't know. I don't know what the deal is, but you would think that they would play. I remember as a kid, they would play on TBS. They would play um, Ben Hur all the freaking time, the original one. Um, but I'm not much of a movie person. I mean, I'll watch something one time, and as an adult, I'm like, okay, I don't want to watch this again. Just too many things in here. Animated movie called Wizards was a classic. Never heard of it. Ray Harryhausen, that's his name. Staple Saturday afternoon TV. Watched him on Creature Feature. Dr. Paul, is that how you say it? Because that's how it would sound. Dr. Paul Bearer. Broadcast from St. Petersburg in the 1970s. Really? Huh. That's right. You lived in, didn't you say you lived in Sarasota? I think you're the one that said you lived in Sarasota. Beaches are really nice down there. But red tide going on now. That's like happened. That's happened like every freaking year now for the last 4 years. Right after Fourth of July, there's a place down in there that we like to go for Fourth of July every year, and we didn't this year, and just had too many other places that we needed to travel, and we didn't get around to it. But we were looking at going down there. I think this last weekend, and red tide's in full swing. So what a mess. Tampa, Fort Myers, Sarasota, you bet. Yeah, the beaches are beautiful down there. Absolutely. I need to go to the beach about once a month. It's good for me. It's good for my skin and so forth. And good for your soul too. So okay, what do we got left on this clown? Yep, this is the part where Mitch would say, again with the clowns. Yeah, I'm not scared of them like you, dude. I didn't even know that was a thing to be scared of clowns. I mean, when I was a kid, yeah, you go to like a McDonald's, you have like a birthday party at McDonald's. You ever been to a birthday party at McDonald's in the late 1970s? Have some guy show up dressed like Ronald McDonald. Yeah, I didn't want it. I didn't want him to get his freaking face paint all over me. That's all. I wasn't scared of him. He's a jackass. Why'd be scared of a jackass? You know? No, I didn't see that movie as a kid, and I'm not scared of Saint Bernards either. And when that movie came out, Cujo, and that was the thing when you were a kid. Oh man, I never believe you saw Cujo. I'm like, dude, how did you see that? It's a rated R movie. Oh, my older brother showed it to me or whatever. Oh man. I didn't see The Shining until like a year ago. I always heard a year, maybe 2 years ago. I'd always hear people talking about it. I don't watch horror stuff. I don't watch horror movies because they put ideas in your freaking head. I remember I was like 10 years old, 11 years old, or 12 years old, something like that. And I saw the original Halloween for the first time. And man, I couldn't go to sleep. Man, I was freaking scarred by that crap. You know, I'm a freaking little kid, you know? I don't need to see that stuff. So yeah, I don't watch those horror things, but man, what a disappointment that movie. What a movie disappointment The Shining was. I'm like, talk about a non-event. I was just expecting something to happen and it never did. Wizards by Ralph Bakshi. Okay. It's animated? Alright, let me get my little homework tab here. Wizards by Ralph Bakshi. There's so many things now that it's really shame that you just can't watch with your kids because they just put stuff that doesn't need to be in it. You know, there's too much weird sexual deviant crap in just about everything, and it's like, man, can't you just like not put that in there? I don't know. So I gotta not that that's in that movie, but it just reminded me of, you know, when I'm trying to watch things with my daughter. I'm okay with her watching rated R stuff, but with me, but it depends what it is. So I know she got hooked watching the first John Wick, and then we ended up watching the second and third ones. God, the third one we watched last weekend. It's what a horrible movie. What a horrible movie. The second one was actually better than the first one. We both agreed. And I watched it again. I had already seen the first one and the second one. I hadn't seen the third one, but I thought the second movie was better than the first one, which is unusual to find in movies that a sequel's better, but I think it was better. She did too, but anyhow, yeah, there's violence in them, but you know, nothing weird. You know, nothing that. Anyhow, don't let her watch them by herself. But you know, she's nearly 17, so
Definitely not for kids. Well, maybe. Well, now I'm interested. Well, I can't guarantee that I'll like it. I'll have to be able to deal with the artwork because I'm really picky when it comes to, you know, style that cartoons are in, you know, animation cartoons. There's as my daughter was growing up, we'd watch, you know, stuff that we had growing up, and they've redone so many different versions of like the, especially if it was some kind of a tie-in with some ride at one of the theme parks. So we'd watch like all the Transformer stuff, right? Because they've got Transformer rides and all that stuff that we go on and seen the movies and stuff like that. And not the original one, but there's one that came out, I want to say in 2010, and I don't remember what it's called because they all sound the same thing, the same way. But the animation, and it's computer animation, is just wonderful, wonderful looking. I don't know which one it is. I want to say it's called Transformers Prime, but I love the animation that was done in that. It was done so well. So, you know, it just depends on the animation. So, yeah, I'll check it out. I'll give something 5 minutes. You know, it doesn't have to appeal to me. Everybody's got different tastes. Wizards Not for Kids has moments of animation, though. I'm sure I can find a clip of it on YouTube. I've never heard of it, but that's not surprising. All right, we need to buckle on this guy. Well, buckle my belt, and then we'll put some Null oil on his helmet. That seems like it'd be a lot. It's a lot later than it is. It's not that late. Although I was already asleep at this time last night. Tells you how much of a party animal I am. Mark Hamill did some of the voice. Okay. Yeah, he played a lot of the Joker stuff and Batman things. We started watching one of them, and the voices kind of creeped my daughter out. At the time, I don't know, it's 3, 4 years ago. So a lot of the animations like not for, it's like for adults. So I got to be picky what's in there, what you're. And be careful what your kids watch until they're well grounded in who they're going to be. She's like, I could watch anything now, and it's not going to change who I am. But you know, I don't want my daughter watching as much as she would enjoy it. I wouldn't want her to watch, say, The Boys. Man, The Boys is hilarious, and I'm not into superheroes. But The Boys is hilarious. The Boys is funnier than Deadpool. It's they really have their act together when they put that. That's some funny stuff, but you don't want your kids watching that. Man, The Boys are funny. Wizards, huh? All right, I can't take it anymore. I gotta see what the hell this is all about. Wizards by who? Ralph Bakshi. Favorite animation to watch my young nieces and nephews is Japanese animated films by Hayao Miyazaki. There's so much animation that, but the plot is just it just seems just like it's just dumb. I mean, like okay, for instance, like if you're looking at films, okay, like films, the Koreans make all kinds of historical stuff. Obviously, it's Korean historical stuff. That's okay. Their history's interesting. The Chinese do a little bit, but then the Japanese don't do like any. And it's like, you know how many cool samurai things they could do? And yeah, I'm not talking about, all the whatever his name in movies, not the Kurosawa stuff, because half of them are in black and white. So I'm out. I don't care how good Seven Samurai is. I'm not going to watch it because it's in black and white. And it's like, okay, that's like watching a movie blind because I mean that period is so interesting and you're going to make me watch a black and white movie anyhow. And then when you do have something that's epic and in color, it's like freaking Ron and it's not even it's based on Shakespeare, which is just shameful. I mean, somebody should have been beaten for that. Like this would have been a perfect opportunity to show, a story of, Japanese lore or something like that. And they had to dumb it down with, putting Shakespeare on it. But, like their anime and stuff like that is I've never found something that I've really been, they have such a cool history. They could have just done something like that. Okay, I gotta see. Let me do this. Obviously, there won't be any volume on this, and see what I'm dealing with. I'm not gonna watch it, but I want to see what the heck this is about. Wizards, Wizards. No, not of Waverly Place. What's this guy's name? Ralph Bakshi. Full movie. What does it look like? Just show me one screen of it. 1977. Okay, so it's going to look like The Hobbit ish. Let's see. There's 21 things on here. Let's see what. Oh, this is interesting. It's definitely 70s looking. Huh. I see a swastika there. That's interesting. Okay. All right, I gotta watch it now. Not because I want to see things with swastikas in it, but it's not going to be, or as I like to call it, the crooked spider. Never heard of it. Never seen it. Never seen that kind of thing. So, we'll check that out. Oh no, Seven Samurai is one of the best movies ever made. I know, that's what I heard, but it's black and white. I'm not going to watch it. And I do like foreign movies. I actually prefer foreign movies because you don't recognize all the people in it. But yeah, sorry. I know. I'm not saying it's garbage. I may even enjoy it. It's black and white, man. Why am I watching black and white? I've seen, how many things have I seen in black and white? Not many. I just get turned off by it. Big time. Some people don't like foreign movies. I have no problem with foreign movies. Um, all right. Maybe one day I'll watch it, but it'd also be maybe one of those movies I've waited too long to see it. If I watched it now, I'd be like, that's no good.
or that's been done before, even though that was probably the first time it was done. Because isn't that what that Magnificent Seven's based on? That? Well, I haven't seen that because it's a Western, so I've only seen maybe 5 Westerns ever. It's just not a period that really attracts, that I'm attracted to. Just like there's some people that don't like war movies. Yeah, everybody would agree that that Seven Samurai is a great movie. That's what I've heard. But why couldn't it be color? At least colorize it for me. Waited too long to see it. What was the name of that movie that was Heavy Metal? Remember Heavy Metal? I've seen it only one time, and I was probably saw it like in 1990. And I'm like, really? This is the movie that everybody's talking about? Come on, could do better than that. Hopefully, Wizards is better than that. Heavy Metal. All right, now we need to come in and we need to lighten up his. We need to brighten up his helmet with the addition of more metal color here. Metal. Black and white movies I've seen. Schindler's List. I just feel like the effect of that in being in black and white is just lost. And I'll tell you that because as a kid, as a teenager, when they put on what was that miniseries, War and Remembrance, and they had that one scene at the concentration camp, and it was in full color. Yeah, that's some shocking. That is some shocking stuff right there. And when you make it black and white, it's just not as you know in your face. So, but I have seen Schindler's List, Maltese Falcon. What else have I seen that's in black and white? I saw Maltese Falcon because I was with someone said I had to see it because it's a great movie. And the only thing I remember about it is, yeah, it might have been a good movie, but I just do not like Bogart. I don't care for him. What else have I seen that I can think of? I've seen only like 4 or 5 things ever that's in black and white. We're not talking Three Stooges, okay? We're not, that's okay. Seven Samurai may have been colorized by Casey Count. I'll have to look it up. Everybody says it's a good movie. There's no doubt I probably would like it. I get turned off by it being in black and white. You're not seeing the color that it was what as it happened. I don't know. What else have I seen that's in black and white? I don't know. Not that many. I don't mind old movies. I don't mind foreign movies. Give me some color, damn it. I'm a color person. Oh yeah. Um, in Harm's Way. I saw In Harm's Way, which is a really weird movie, if I remember correctly. It was a really weird movie with, Kirk Douglas plays kind of a unusual character for him to play. That was one of those movies where everybody told me about the movie forever until I saw it. What else have I seen in black and white? I don't know. Is Sink the Bismarck black and white? I think it is, isn't it? Okay, what am I up to? 3? Oh, not many more than that. Not many more. I've probably seen one of the Hitchcock movies that was black and white. I don't remember which one. There's probably one in there that I've watched. I don't remember which ones I've seen and which ones I haven't. I've probably seen 7 or 8 of them. Um, Stick to Bismarck, black and white. Yep. Grew up with black and white television, aging myself. Well, that's all there was. Some of the best naval films are black and white. Yeah, I know. I know. When I was doing World War II, I'm like, man, I wish this was in color. And then you do Ancients, like, man, I wish there was any information about these civilizations that survived. It's like, what are you talking about? Spoiled. I just want to know anything about these people. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't grow up with it, so, you know, I guess I'm spoiled in that respect, but it was already when I grew up and there was black and white films, those were already old things. So, man, I disliked that Schindler's List was black and white. I dealt with it, but that stuff's so much more powerful in color. So much more powerful. So if you go online and you'll hear this, you'll be looking for something else. You'll be looking for apples or whatever. You'll be looking for something else, and you'll get these. You'll always get 10 this or 10 that or 10 worst or 10 most shocking, or I think it was 10 most shocking war movies ever. And I'm like, all right, I'll give this a shot. Victory at Sea. Oh, it's a propaganda film. But yeah, I've caught parts of it. Um, 10 most shocking war films. One that always tops was a movie I'd never seen before. And it was called Come and See. It's a film from the mid 1980s. It's a Russian film, and it's about partisan warfare on the Eastern Front in 43, I think, or 44. So I watched it like about a year ago because you could find it on. I don't exactly know where I found this, somewhere on the internet, and I wasn't shocked. I mean, I guess because, you know, I don't, by that I don't mean like, it's good that that happened to those people. I just mean that, it wasn't shocking to me because I knew that that kind of stuff happened. Maybe if you weren't aware that those kind of things, reprisals and the like happened, you know, I didn't think it was that shocking. I don't know. Maybe I'm hardened to that. All right, let's take a look at these clowns and see what we got here. Now, obviously, the two blue guys are not going to be on the same stand. I don't know. I may wait to seal these guys up. This guy looks good. I like how this. Now they'll look better when they get sealed up. I may wait to do the other spearmen before I seal these guys up to see if there's any final things I'm going to do, because the other spearmen are definitely going to have motif of the papal keys, or a key or both keys or something like that. So we'll call these guys done for now. Okay, and we also have these guys also to. These are the guys we finished before. Okay, so we've got a bunch of guys here to do. 12, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, we're going to set these guys aside. Well, still got some energy in me. Let's at least take a look at the spearmen. I'm going to do them next. The other unit of spearmen. You guys are all in the earlier time zone than I'm at, so I know you. It's not even that late. It's almost 10. It's all right. Let's clear all this stuff up. Wizards, huh? I know I'm going to watch at least 5 minutes of that tonight. I got to see what that's about. I got to see if that's something I'm going to continue or not. So, my apologies if it doesn't catch my attention. All right. So these guys are going to have some kind of a papal motif. So either going to have a cross spear and cross coins, cross keys or something like that. But I think for the most part, let's go ahead and fill these guys in with black where it seems to have not stayed on there very well. And because we got to do that anyways. Just for good measure. And then after this guy, we still have 2 stands of crossbowmen, a fast horde, and the Pope himself. I think that sounds right. The Pope, the papal stand himself, that's going to be last. Got to earn that one. That's going to be a hoot. There's going to be all kinds of stuff going on that stand. Saving Private Ryan beach landing is pretty shocking. Yep, I saw that in the movie theater. It was. Yes, it was. I remember seeing what is it, the two movies, the Flags of Our Fathers and Messages from Iwo Jima or Letters from Iwo Jima. I watched those back to back. I remember renting them or something like that. I remember liking the Japanese one better because it was at least a different standpoint, but I just don't get into the Pacific stuff. Like, what was that Hackshaw Ridge? I watched like half the movie and I'm like, okay, I'm done. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it anymore. I don't want to. I watch war movies as a war gamer to see, stuff in action, tactics and that kind of stuff, like live before. And of course, obviously I'm disappointed lots of times because, the director just wants to throw things out there. But, you know, I think war gamers, we look for things for different reasons. We want to see our things in action, what it really looks like. So at least I think that's what we do. Don't we? All right. Let's look at what website is this? Oh, I mentioned it the other day. It was at Drugspiel something or another. This has papal flag places, papal flag things as well. So let me do a search for 15 millimeter flags, Scandinavian. Okay. Their site might actually be. I have it linked on another computer. Okay, here it is. Here's a Kriegspiel DL download, yada, 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 which probably is going to come back blank. And then I'm going to have to go to, exactly, I'm going to have to copy this, go to Wayback Machine. That's why you got to be careful, folks, what you say on the internet, because with the Wayback Machine, you could find it. Wayback Machine, Internet Archive. Drop that in the HTTP site. Wait a second. Won't let me paste it. Oh man. Can I go in my history? Yeah, here it is. Copy. Paste. Perfect. There's plenty of them in 2019. Go to one that has a big circle. Well, that ended up empty-handed. How about here? How about in 2017? It works from another computer. Okay, medieval and Renaissance. I'm not going to be able to find that here. Somehow it's not wanting to work here. Let me go back. Let me pick a different. No, it's having trouble. Let's
try 2018. It's Crusades, Polish Army at Grunwald, Flags of Danish. I pulled it up the other day. Okay, that's a Scandinavian one. If I go medieval and Renaissance, it won't give me that page. All right, I'll have to access it from the other computer that I'm talking about, because I got it hot linked on there, and I have no problem looking at all that stuff. But hey, that's what happens. Sometimes things disappear, and I'm not really sure why that stuff isn't available anymore. Maybe they decided to stop hosting it, or they had to pay a certain amount. But most of the images I find on the papal medieval armor seem to be the current Swiss Guard. Yeah, it's nothing like that. They're nothing. These guys are just gonna have the little key comments. So I'll have to go on there and find that. But okay, well, it's just after 10, so we're gonna call this one a wrap. But anyways, thanks for coming by. What are we on? Almost 3 hours, over 2.5 hours. Got this guy done. So all the alloy are complete. We might have to tinker with them a little bit and maybe give them a little bit more detail, but there's time to do that. So, but we're gonna run into the spearman next. So thanks for you guys that were able to come on and entertain each other. And let's see, it's Wednesday, so Saturday morning for sure. But I'm not sure if we'll get a chance to do anything before then. But we'll check out that Wizards and see what we got there, and hopefully it's great. Anyhow, we'll catch you guys next time. Good night, folks.